All right. Welcome back, or welcome to season 2, episode 2 of Jog Your Mind. And today we are talking all about early season priorities. Now, this episode gets a little complex and has a really cool download in it that I think you guys will all enjoy. One of the things that I hear from a lot of people is it's hard to make that transition back to figuring out and thinking about things in terms of laps versus one long race when we get back from cross country. And I will apologize for my voice today. If I didn't have to get this episode out, I probably wouldn't record, but I want to make sure that I keep to our schedule. I spent the last couple of days in New York City with 9 athletes, and spent most of my time screaming at the top of my lungs to my athletes. And we had a really, really great time. Go ahead and check our Instagram if you want to see how we did out there. But as a result of all of my coaching and screaming, this is the voice we get. Let's hop in. When we talk about early season priorities, I'm going to speak specifically to 800, 1600, and 3200 meter athletes. The first thing I will tell you is that do not lose sight of your long run. Your long run is usually 60 to 75 minutes inside the season. As you get towards the end of the season, it's okay to dial those things back a little bit. It's okay if you're not doing it quite as often. But for the first half of the season, you need to get a long run in, 60 to 75 minutes every 7 to 10 days. Realistically, your long run is what is going to allow you to do those bigger, higher density workouts at race pace, especially when they start to matter most. But if you do not maintain your aerobic side of your training and you're just going out and just constantly doing speed work, it's going to be a problem. You're going to plateau and you're going to flatten out throughout the season. The second thing in terms of priorities is be realistic about race pace and your goal race pace. Now, athletes that were a part of my remote training group this winter, we talked a lot about open season and early season race pace. And what I want you guys to be able to do with that is if you've raced so far this season, your next reasonable goal, and we're going to talk about the mile and center this conversation around that. I have a couple of markers inside the blog post that goes along with this. If you ran 440 to open your season, you should probably use about 435 to 432 for your next goal pace inside your workouts. So about 5 to 8 seconds per mile. And the same thing goes for the 2 mile, about 5 to 8 seconds, which translates to about 10 to 16 seconds in the overall race, which would be a solid improvement. In that 800, we're going to back things off about 1 to 3 seconds per mile. It's just a little bit tougher of a race. And don't worry, we are going to talk about race plans at each event, 800, 1600, and 3200. And we will get into the first part of race plans and strategy today when we talk about loose plans. The third thing that I consider an early season priority is following a plan or a model. The number one thing I see athletes do is they leave all of their racing strategy up to chance. When they go into a race, they just hope that there's some guys they can latch on to, and hopefully that will result in them running a fast race, guys and girls, I should say. And with that, what we want to do is instead go in and follow our own race plan. People tend to go out really, really fast in these early season races, and that can lead to some frustrating back half of races where we fall off. And a great example, had one of my athletes, she did set a PR. She ran 5:25, but she may have opened that race in 70 seconds at 4:40 pace. So that last 400 meters was a little rough. And in her text back to me said, not an ideal way to finish her race. But we've got some good plans about how we can adjust that. So the race model is all about going in and trying not to just look at paces and times, but how do you want to run it? Knowing that you're going to open a little bit quicker, and then you're going to settle in, and then you're probably going to want to close fast. Maybe that's not how you run, but what you do want to do is try to give yourself some targets and structures inside your race. So if you're thinking about the mile, how can you break it up into 4 pieces? Where do you want to kick? And especially in these early season races when weather may be a factor, think about doing this at 90 to 95% effort instead of going out and trying to squeeze for everything you've got when the field, the weather, and everything else, it doesn't really allow for a great PR effort. go and practice your race model so that when you do get a good chance, you know exactly what you need to do. Today's conversation is going to kind of shift into talking about what I call a loose plan. This is adapted from a really good resource. I highly recommend that if you guys don't know who Shannon Thompson is and the works that she does, this is an adapted version of what she does. And I loved it so much and have enjoyed listening to her speak at Jay Johnson's clinic the last 2 years that I've really invested in trying to understand more of what she does. But a lot of this is very similar to what she does. So if you're really interested in that, she's phenomenal at what she does, and highly encourage you guys to look into some of her mental training tools. When I talk about a loose plan, this is a system that is more than just the actual race day plan itself. This is something that can be used at every single level at any kind of race. The first thing we talk about actually is fear stories. What are the stories that you're telling yourself about how this is going to go wrong? 90% of the time when I talk to athletes, there's something that's stuck in their mind. They don't want to finish last. They don't want to, go out too hard. They don't want to blow up. And the whole goal of the first part of the exercise is really just kind of figuring out what are you believing or fighting or fearing, and then just sitting with that and honestly meditating, listening to some music that you like, and just honestly trying to answer, who would I be if I wasn't worried about this thing? Because as we learned from episode 1, trying to predict how a race is going to play out or how things are going to go, there's uncertainty in there. And our brain loves to figure out uncertainty, and we will just focus when the reality is there's nothing we can do about it. So we might as well go in with a good attitude and not worry about things that we can't control. The second thing is WD, WTB. Anybody got what that is? Who do you want to be? One of the things that I see with athletes, especially my high schoolers, they wake up in the morning and their attitude when they wake up is the one that they carry with them all day. And if they're anxious, and if they're someone who doesn't love the uncertainty and really struggles with, figuring out races and, just isn't quite there yet with having things figured out in what they're capable of, they wake up grumpy. They wake up with a bad attitude, and that bad attitude usually ends up being something that they take out on friends and parents and boyfriends and coaches, when the reality is that's the only way they know how to handle that emotion. And instead, they need to wake up and just think for a second, who do you want to be today? And if you want to go out there and attack a race and you want to show up with a positive attitude and be, your normal self, the best version of yourself, you have to decide that in the morning when you wake up. And you have to actually sit down and talk to yourself about, what do you want it to look like when you're standing on the line? Do you want to be the person that's got a smile and waving your hand? Is that who you are? Or are you someone that puts a game face on and it's ready to go and you don't want to take anything from anybody? But that attitude and how you show up is so vital and so important. And so part of this loose plan is, who do you want to be? Reminding yourself of that when you're reviewing your loose plan, that sometimes we shift out of that. We need to shift back into that. Lastly, we're going to dive into the loose plan. I really like to break races up into 4 pieces. The 800 is 4 200-meter efforts, the mile 4 400-meter efforts, the 2 mile 4 800-meter efforts. And so the reality is we want to think about, how do we want these things to go? And I don't mean time. Time is the worst thing. If you're going to use time in ranges. Instead of I must hit 75, 73 to 77. I can be happy with that. But the reality is your loose plan needs to be a little bit more about the semantics. Think of it as like the first lap. I want to get into position. Keep it short, keep it concise. Settle in, deep breath, relax, right? Next part is, hey, it's going fast, starting to build. I need to keep contact. I can't lose that group. I might need to go to the front if this race isn't playing out the way I want it to. Lap 3, it's getting hard. Reminding yourself, I can go with anyone. Put yourself in the race. Lap 4, focus on your plan, make your move, execute. That's a plan right there that anybody can use for any race, but it's about it being important to you. Find the words and find the things that you can repeat to yourself, right? Just say first lap, position, second lap, keep contact, third, go with anybody, and then the last one, execute. Whatever things work for you, that's so important. The last piece here, and I don't have it in the blog, but I'll give it to you guys. What's so key is your purpose. What are you there? What are you there to do? Are you there to pace a teammate? Are you there to, help your relay get into state? Are you there to try to set a PR? And each race that you go in should not be a PR attempt. There should be a reason. I'm practicing my race model. I'm here to try a new strategy. That's the purpose. And that's also going to inform all of those other little pieces. So with that said, that's everything for this week's episode. I apologize for my voice, but I hope this was a helpful one. Inside the blog post, you guys will see a download for a PDF that goes along with the entire presentation of the loose plan that I've developed. Now, it's not a video of me sharing it, so you'll have to do and think through some of the slides and what I might say with them. But it's a great resource, and there's one slide that I include as a photo on the blog that is a great pre-race tool to kind of help bring everything together, and a good reminder. It's a good screenshot to save on your phone. With that said, that's it. All said and done here for episode 2, and I look forward to having you guys back for episode 3. That said, I'll see you guys later.